Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next hour. India restricts import of ready-made garments, other goods through land transit ports, days after Bangladesh puts similar restrictions for Indian yarn and rice. Fresh round of negotiations for a Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas begins in Qatar's Doha. Hamas proposes releasing some hostages in fresh talks. US President Donald Trump says he will speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin on ending the Ukraine conflict on Monday. Also plans to speak with Ukraine President and NATO members. And in sports, world number one Yannick Sinner will face four-time Grand Slam champion Carlos Alcaraz in the men's singles final of Italian Open 2025 on Sunday. The Directorate General of Foreign Trade, which is DGFT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, has imposed new port restrictions on certain goods imported from Bangladesh to India. According to notification issued on May 17, the import of ready-made garments, processed food items, fruit drinks, cotton waste, plastic goods and wooden furniture will be restricted through specific land ports. These goods can only be imported via Nhava Sheva and Kolkata seaports, with restrictions on several land custom stations in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram and parts of West Bengal. However, the restrictions do not apply to goods in transit to Nepal and Bhutan or imports of fish, LPG, edible oil and crushed stone from Bangladesh. The government is sending 7 multi-party delegations to different countries to present India's stance on counter-terrorism and Operation Sindoor post the Pahalgam terror attack. The all-party delegations will soon engage key nations under Operation Sindoor, reflecting India's collective resolve against terrorism. First among the 7 all-party delegation will be led by BJP's Bajwant Panda and visit countries including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain and Algeria. Second delegation will be led by BJP's Ravi Shankar Prasad and visit nations including UK, France, Germany, European Union, Italy and Denmark. The third delegation will be led by JDU's Sanjay Kumar Jha and visit Indonesia, Malaysia, Republic of Korea, Japan and Singapore. The fourth delegation will visit nations including UAE, Liberia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone and led by Shiv Sena's Shrikant Shinde. The fifth group of all-party MPs will be led by Congress Shashi Tharoor and visit nations including USA, Panama, Guyana, Brazil and Colombia. The sixth delegation will visit nations including Spain, Greece, Slovenia, Latvia and Russia and led by DMK's Kanimoji Karunanidhi. The final and seventh group will be led by NCP's Supriya Sule and visit nations including Egypt, Qatar, Ethiopia and South Africa. Now, J&K Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha on Saturday visited the line of control in the Karna sector of Kupwara district to take stock of the prevailing situation and assess security and developmental initiatives in the region. During his visit, the Lieutenant Governor interacted with residents affected by cross-border shelling from various areas. He assured them with the government's unwavering commitment to their safety, providing adequate relief measures and expediting developmental works in the border areas. The Governor also chaired a comprehensive review meeting with senior civil and security officials to discuss the overall security environment, ongoing public welfare projects and issues faced by the local population.
प्रशासन के अपने साथियों का मैं बहुत आभारी हूं, जिन्होंने बहुत कठिन परिस्थिति में भी सदैव मौके पर डटे रहे और आवाम को कोई कठिनाई न हो, इसका उन्होंने भरपूर प्रयास किया। प्रशासन ने आकलन कर लिया है और उस आकलन के आधार पर जो अविलंब सहायता दी जा सकती थी वो दे दी गई है। जो क्षति हुई है उसका एक कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव प्लान डिविजनल कमिश्नर कश्मीर और सीनियर ऑफिसर मिलकर बनाएंगे। उस आधार पर भारत सरकार से अनुरोध करके लोगों को पूरी तरह से रिहेबिलिटेट किया जाएगा।
Now, Manoj Sinha also visited the headquarters of Shakti Vijay Brigade in the Tangdhar sector. During the visit, the Lieutenant Governor was briefed on the ongoing operational developments in the Tangdhar sector, including the conduct and progress of Operation Sindoor. He interacted with the troops of the Shakti Vijay Brigade, commending them for their valor, high morale and steadfast dedication to duty. Now, in a major crackdown on espionage, Haryana-based YouTuber Jyoti Malhotra has been arrested for allegedly spying for Pakistan. She was produced in court and granted a 5-day remand. A case has been registered against her at the Civil Lines Police Station in Hisar. Police has confirmed that Jyoti was in contact with Pakistani intelligence agencies, sharing sensitive information via social media. In another case, accused Devendra Singh Dhillon, who used to send information to Pakistan, has been arrested from Kaithal in Haryana. The accused Devendra Singh Dhillon is a resident of village Mastgarh of Guhla police station area. Devendra used to make videos of army cantonment and sensitive areas and send them to Pakistan. In a significant nationwide outreach effort, the 11-day-long Tiranga Yatra is underway across the country to honour the courage and sacrifice of India's armed forces, particularly celebrating the success of Operation Sindoor. To celebrate the success of this operation, a Tiranga Yatra was organised in Haridwar, Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami on Saturday praised the Indian Armed Forces for successfully carrying out Operation Sindoor and said that they displayed their bravery and valour and destroyed the terror sites in Pakistan. And in a powerful display of patriotism and solidarity, Eastern Indian state of Odisha witnessed a grand Tiranga Yatra on Saturday in honour of the Indian Armed Forces, which successfully executed Operation Sindoor in response to the recent terrorist attack in Pahalgam. In support of the Operation Sindoor, a Tiranga Yatra was organised in Banda, Uttar Pradesh to showcase solidarity with the armed forces and patriotism. Now, the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, has decided to suspend its agreements with universities in Turkey over its support and military assistance to Pakistan. Turkey reportedly supplied drones to Pakistan and deployed military operatives to assist in countering Operation Sindoor, India's retaliatory military action following the Pahalgam terrorist attack. Before IIT Bombay, other premier institutions such as Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, and Jamia Millia Islamia had either suspended collaborations with Turkish universities or were considering similar actions. Other institutions such as Kanpur University and Sharda University, a private university in Noida, have also severed their ties with Turkish institutions. And the boycott has extended beyond academia, with traders refusing to stock Turkish goods and individuals cancelling travel plans to the West Asian nation. Online travel platforms such as Ease My Trip and Ixigo have also issued advisories against visiting Turkey and other allied countries. Moving on, the Indian Space Research Organisation ISRO on Sunday launched its 101st satellite EOS-09 aboard the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle C-61 from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre at Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. The PSLV C-61, marking the 63rd flight of the PSLV series and the 27th in its 40th configuration, was tasked with placing the Advanced Earth Observation Satellite EOS-09 into a Sun-synchronous polar orbit. However, the EOS-09 mission could not be accomplished. According to the ISRO chief, the performance was normal up to the second stage, but some issues were encountered in the third stage. ISRO has announced that a failure analysis committee will thoroughly investigate their telemetry and flight data to determine the exact cause and implement corrective measures. Despite this setback, ISRO's PSLV remains one of the world's most reliable launch vehicles with a long record of successful missions. Now, India's Minister of State for Defence, Sanjay Seth, will lead an Indian delegation at the 17th edition of Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition, LIMA 2025. Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition, LIMA 2025, will be held at Malaysia from May 20th to 24, 2025. An Indian pavilion is set up in LIMA 2025, which will be inaugurated by India's Minister of State for Defence. Many DPSUs, including Mazagon, Dock Shipbuilders Limited, Bharat Dynamics Limited, BEML, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Gliders India Limited and private defence companies will be participating in the exhibition and showcasing the Indian defence industry prowess. This year, Indian assets including Dornier aircraft and an Indian naval ship will also participate in LIMA 2025. India and Malaysia have a robust and multifaceted relationship which has expanded into several strategic areas including defence and security. LIMA, established in 1991 and held biennially, is regarded as one of the largest and most significant maritime and aerospace exhibitions in the Asia-Pacific region. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today. India's Central Reserve Police Force is on a long-term anti-Naxal operation in Korigutta Hill, situated on the border of Chhattisgarh and Telangana. Officers and soldiers of CRPF along the state police held continuous strategic discussions and boosted the morale and enthusiasm of the comrades about India's onwards to mission March 31st, 2026. A tiny life finds a loving home in the Pearl City, Thoothukudi. Damayanti, a resident of the port city, has been raising a squirrel as a house pet after nursing it back to health when it fell from a tree in her home's garden one day. Her family has named their fury house member Pachai Pacha. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Arab leaders urged the international community to press for an immediate ceasefire. UK to strike new deal with European Union in coming days, 5 years after Brexit. And a Mexican Navy ship crashes into Brooklyn Bridge in New York.
Our actions harm the planet. But the good news is we can also mitigate some of the damage.
We store the waste material like metal dust, metal pins that accumulates so that we can use it later for painting or some other artwork.
We've invented our own alternative cement, which essentially is compatible with crop residues, because of which Agrocrete, the world's first verified carbon negative bioconcrete.
When my son died, I wanted to take my life too. I lost a child, but I have started an initiative and planted 500,000 trees.
As an alternative to clay bricks, we have come up with concrete hollow blocks that are environmentally friendly.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Israel and Hamas have resumed fresh round of talks on Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal in Qatar on Saturday. The talks took place after Israel launched its new military offensive in Gaza. The new ceasefire talks are being held in Doha, and the first round took place on Saturday afternoon with the help of Qatari and US mediators. Hamas has agreed to release hostages in exchange for a 60-day truce and Israel releasing Palestinian prisoners. The new proposed deal would also allow the entry of 408 trucks a day and the evacuation of medical patients from Gaza. Israel is yet to respond to the proposal, but said prior to the talks that it would not withdraw troops from Gaza or commit to an end to the conflict. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz stated that Israel's new military operation aimed at expanding the scope of the conflict and dismantling Hamas would continue until its objectives were met. Now, Arab leaders on Saturday urged the international community to press for an immediate ceasefire, and Israel launched an expanded military offensive in Gaza. In the final statement of the 34th Arab League summit, which was held in the Iraqi capital Baghdad, the leaders of the bloc's 22 member states called on the international community to exert pressure to end the bloodshed and ensure unhindered humanitarian aid to Gaza. The leaders also reiterated their rejection of forced displacement of the Palestinian people, which constitutes a violation of international law. The bloc also called for funding for the reconstruction and recovery plans for the Gaza Strip. Israeli protesters gathered in Tel Aviv on Saturday, blocking roads and making speeches calling for an end to the conflict in the Gaza Strip and the release of the remaining hostages. Israel and Hamas have restarted ceasefire negotiations in Qatar, even as Israeli forces intensified their bombing campaign. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that discussions on securing the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas had resumed in Doha. He noted that the talks had started without Israel first agreeing to a ceasefire or to lift its blockade. Now, updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. US President Donald Trump said on Saturday he will speak with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and NATO allies after his call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump had offered to travel to Turkey for the talks while in the Gulf last week if Putin would also attend, but Putin declined to take him up on the offer. Trump has been pressurizing Putin and Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire in the 3-year-old conflict. Trump said in a Truth Social post that his call with Putin will be on Monday. Trump's remarks come a day after the first Moscow-Kiev talks in 3 years failed to yield a ceasefire agreement. Putin had declined an invitation from Zelensky to attend Friday's talks, sending a lower-level delegation in his place. Following the talks, which led to an agreement to exchange 1,000 prisoners each, Ukraine's Defense Minister Rustem Umerov said the next step would be a meeting between Zelensky and Putin. And the Kremlin said on Saturday that Russian President Vladimir Putin could meet Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, but only if certain agreements were reached. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov did not specify what agreements would be required from Russia's point of view. Putin and Zelensky have not met since December 2019. Zelensky had challenged the Kremlin leader to meet him in Turkey this week, but Putin instead sent a team of aides and officials to meet Ukrainian negotiators on Friday for the first bilateral. Ukraine said it had raised the issue of a Putin-Zelensky meeting at the talks. Peskov said Russia considers such a meeting was possible, but only as a result of work between the two sides to achieve certain results in the form of agreements. Earlier, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov spoke with each other on Saturday. During the call, Rubio welcomed the prisoner exchange agreement reached during recent talks between Russia and Ukraine in Turkey. The secretary also emphasized US President Donald Trump's call for an immediate ceasefire and an end to the violence in Russia's war in Ukraine. And Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Saturday reaffirms Canada's support for Ukraine in his first face-to-face meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky since winning the election. The leaders met while in Rome to attend the inaugural Mass of newly elected Pope Leo on Sunday at the Vatican. During his meeting with Zelensky, Carney said Canadian support for Ukraine extends to the president's leadership.
The Canadian people stand in steadfast and unwavering support of your leadership, of the people of Ukraine. We admire what you're doing. We admire your commitment to peace, as you've demonstrated again this week. And we underscore that there can be no peace without the full support and participation of Ukraine, and that you have our absolute support.
And the Ukrainian president thanked Canadian PM Karni for his support. Zelensky also offered some remarks on the recent peace talks in Turkey's Istanbul.
I think that it's important. It's important when two sides want to finish the war, and we really waited for Putin, and he didn't come. We think that he's afraid of bilateral, just direct talks. But anyway, I think that the decision of exchanging of prisoners, war prisoners, very important. 1,000 people, it's a lot, and I hope we will get this result. And of course, we have to make pressure, more pressure on Russia, on Putin, to really to make peace as quick as possible.
All right, DD India's Amritpal Singh joins us for more. Amritpal, Trump has been pressurizing Putin and Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire. He will speak with Putin on Monday and then maybe with Zelensky and NATO countries, members of the NATO countries. Tell us how crucial you think these talks would be.
Oh, this telephone call is very crucial, Abhishek, because as you said that President Trump is very interested in seeing that a ceasefire deal between President Putin and President Zelensky is reached as soon as possible. He had made it clear that the two leaders should meet in Istanbul, but President Putin chose not to come to Istanbul either for talks between President Zelensky and himself or a possible meeting between President Trump and Putin. Now clearly the US President wants the ceasefire to happen immediately, immediate 30-day ceasefire, which the Russians are not amenable to right now, given the fact that they are making they are getting huge victories on the battleground, so they wouldn't want to cut they wouldn't want to go back on that, given that they are presently victorious. I think President Putin's strategy would be to gain as much on the battleground and then get down to the negotiating table. So the Russians are taking their time. They are in no hurry to sit down on the table, while President Zelensky desperately wants the ceasefire to come in to cut his losses. So this phone call could basically begin the process of Trump and Putin meeting, and then President Trump asking President Putin to work out details of a ceasefire. Abhishek.
Also, Amritpal, what are the demands of both the parties, Russia and Ukraine, if you can broadly tell us, and for the benefit of our viewers, what's happening at the battleground?
Well, Russia is making huge victories on the battleground. They are proceeding, their tanks are moving faster. It's the Ukrainians that are suffering, despite Donald Trump's claims that 10,000 soldiers or 5,000 soldiers are being killed every day, but the losses are mostly of Ukraine. The demands of both sides, the Russians basically don't want to give up territory they have captured. The Russians want the Ukrainians to give up their NATO, their ambitions to join the NATO. They basically want the West off their back and NATO off their back and be positioned at a depth. So that is what their objectives really are. Whereas the Ukrainians want an immediate ceasefire, because the ceasefire proposed by President Trump, a 30-day ceasefire, so that they can cut their losses. Also, they want their territory to be returned. Now, of course, these are the proposals which are not amenable to each other, and that's why we saw, no meeting between President Zelensky and President Putin in Istanbul, though the delegations met, but they also could not reach, much of a deal except for the prisoner swap that they agreed to. So clearly, the Russians would want concrete proposals, and they would want basically time to make more gains on the battlefield, so that they, even if they have to give away something on the negotiating table, they have enough leverage. President Zelensky, as I said, on his part, would want an immediate cessation of hostilities. Both sides have their positions, and we'll have to see whether President Trump can throw his weight behind this and get both sides to agree to some sort of a ceasefire, because he's indicated that enough in his both aberrations and the tweet that he put out on social media. Abhishek?
Yes, Amritpal, all eyes will be on Monday when Trump speaks with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky thereafter. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs, Amritpal. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to sign a new deal with the European Union seeking to reset ties after Brexit. Downing Street said in a statement that the UK Prime Minister Starmer will strike yet another deal next week that will deliver in the national interest of the country. Starmer will meet with European Union chiefs on Monday for the first post-Brexit EU-UK summit. The summit aimed at agreeing steps towards a closer relationship between Britain and the 27-country bloc, which it left 5 years ago after an acrimonious and knife-edge referendum. Starmer will welcome EU bosses Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, as well as top EU diplomat Kaja Kallas for the talks in London. In an interview with an English daily on Saturday, UK PM said a deal would be a really significant moment. He, however, ruled out rejoining the customs union and single market, but has suggested that the UK is ready for regulatory alignment with the EU on food and agricultural products. Now, polls are voting on Sunday in a tight presidential election that will be decisive for the future of the country's centrist government. There are 13 candidates in total and definitive results are expected only on Monday. Poland's runoff expected on June 1st comes at a tense time for Europe, with ongoing Russia-Ukraine, rising far-right populism and strained ties with the US since 2023. Ever since former EU leader Donald Tusk's coalition came to power in 2023, key government initiatives have been blocked by the veto of nationalist President Andrzej Duda. The electoral campaign in the European Union and NATO member has largely revolved around foreign policy, showcasing a clash of philosophies over Poland's engagement with the EU and the United States. Poland's president is commander-in-chief of the armed forces, steers foreign policy and can introduce and veto legislation. Romanians go to polls on Sunday in the presidential election rerun, a tight race between a nationalist and a centrist that could reshape the direction of the country. Far-right candidate George Simeon, who took the lead in the first round of the Romanian parliamentary elections on 4th May, will face off against the centrist mayor of Bucharest, Nijir Dan, in the second round today. Simeon's first round win triggered the resignation of leftist Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu, the collapse of his pro-Western coalition government. Simeon has promised to redo the second round of the 2024 election if the Romanian public also desires. Polls opens at 400 GMT and will close at 1800 GMT. With exit polls published soon after and results expected later in the night. The election is a rerun after November 2024's vote was annulled. Now, voters in Portugal will also go to polls today in the third general election in 3 years, with Prime Minister Luís Montenegro tipped to win without securing a majority in the parliament. Final surveys indicate centre-right Democratic Alliance is ahead of the Socialist Party and will likely pick up more seats, but once again falls short of the 116 seats needed in Portugal's 230-seat parliament for majority rule. The populist far-right Chega party is on track to finish third once more, making it a potential kingmaker, although Montenegro has refused to govern with the formation. Polling stations opened at 700 GMT with final results expected several hours later. Sunday's election was called after Montenegro lost a parliamentary vote of confidence in March that he himself had proposed, following accusations of conflicts of interest stemming from his consulting firm's business. Now, a Mexican Navy sailing ship crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, sharing the top of its mast and causing multiple injuries. Video showed the ship sailing underneath the bridge connecting the New York City boroughs of Brooklyn and Manhattan as its mast collided with it. 19 people were injured, with 4 of them in serious condition. Many people dressed in what appeared to be white sailor uniforms could be seen dangling from the ship's cross beams. At the base of the bridge, which is located near New York City's South Street seaport, bystanders could be seen running away from the approaching ship. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Kentucky and Missouri in the US massively hit by tornado, leading to 25 deaths. Pope Leo XIV to formally take up his role as a leader of the global Catholic Church with a Mass in St. Peter's Square. On International Museum Day, Archaeological Survey of India offers free entry to museums and monuments where history comes alive. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. India restricts import of ready-made garments, other goods to land transit ports days after Bangladesh put similar restrictions for Indian yarn and rice. Fresh round of negotiations for a Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas begins in Qatar's Doha. Hamas proposes releasing some hostages in fresh talks. US President Donald Trump says he will speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin on ending the Ukraine conflict on Monday. Also plans to speak with Ukraine President and NATO members. And in sports, world number 1 Yannick Sinner will face 4-time Grand Slam champion Carlos Alcaraz in the men's singles final of Italian Open on Sunday. Syria on Saturday announced the formation of a national commission for missing persons and another for transitional justice more than 5 months after the ouster of longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad. A decree signed by interim President Ahmed al-Shara and released by the presidency announced the formation of an independent national commission for missing persons. The body is tasked with researching and uncovering the fate of the missing and forcibly disappeared, documenting cases, establishing a national database and providing legal and humanitarian support to their families. A separate decree announced the formation of a national commission for transitional justice to uncover the truth about the grave violations caused by the former regime. According to the decree signed by Shara, both bodies will have financial and administrative independence and act over all of Syrian territory. Now, Pope Leo XIV will formally take up his role as a leader of the global Catholic Church on Sunday with a Mass in St. Peter's Square. Tens of thousands of well-wishers, including dozens of world leaders and European royalty, will be in attendance. From India, Deputy Chairman of the lower house of the Parliament, Harivansh, will lead the Indian delegation to the ceremony. Let's take a look at this report.
Robert Prevost, a relatively unknown on the world stage who only became a cardinal 2 years ago, was elected Pope on May 8th after a short conclave of cardinals that lasted barely 24 hours. Sunday's Mass will feature prayers in several languages in a nod to the global reach of the 1.4 billion member church, including Latin, Italian, Greek, Portuguese, French, Arabic, Polish and Chinese. As part of the ceremony, Leo will also formally receive 2 items as he takes up the papacy: the liturgical vestment known as the pallium, a strip of lamb's wool which represents his role as a shepherd, and a special band known as the fisherman's ring. The ceremonial gold signet ring is specially cast for each new pope and can be used by Leo to seal documents. It features a design of St. Peter holding the keys to heaven and will be broken after his death, marking an end to his papacy. Spanish King Philip and Queen Letizia, US Vice President J.D. Vance and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to attend the ceremony, while the presidents of Peru, Israel and Nigeria, Prime Ministers of Italy, Canada and Australia, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen are also expected to attend the ceremony. Pope's first words in an appearance to the crowds in St. Peter's Square on the night of his election were, "Peace be with you all," echoing the words Catholics use in their celebrations. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Bangladesh's Inter-Services Public Relations has announced a ban on all forms of meetings, rallies, processions and demonstrations in areas surrounding the Dhaka cantonment and other key locations in the capital effective from Sunday and until further notice. The restriction effective from Sunday will remain in place until further notice. Officials have stated that the measure aims to maintain security and public order in these sensitive areas. Later, the Dhaka Metropolitan Police also issued a release prohibiting public gatherings in the same locations. In California, 1 person was killed and 5 injured in a bomb explosion near a reproductive health facility in Palm Springs. The FBI called it an intentional act of terrorism. The explosion was spotted from a bomb placed near a car. The Federal Bureau of Investigation in Los Angeles said to investigate the explosion with bomb technicians deployed to the scene. The American Reproductive Center's fertility clinic was damaged, but that the staff was safe.
Make no mistake, this is an intentional act of terrorism. The FBI is investigating it as such. Our Joint Terrorism Task Force is here, working in lockstep with the Palm Springs Police Department, the ATF, and a whole host of agencies that I've already mentioned.
Mexican security forces detained 9 alleged members of a criminal group and killed 12 others in an operation in a rural part of southwestern Mexico on Saturday. Security Minister Omar confirmed 3 members of the Navy were injured in the Navy-led operation in Huitzontla. The detained individuals are linked to crimes such as homicide, extortion and kidnapping. The Security Ministry said in a statement that the criminal groups in the area are tied to maritime drug trafficking, which said naval personnel found weapons and tactical equipment at the site. Mexican newspapers reported that the group was part of the cartel Jalisco New Generacion gang, one of Mexico's 2 major drug cartels, and which the US government designated a terrorist organization in February. And 7 of the 10 inmates involved in this daring escape from a New Orleans jail remain at large on Saturday. They first pulled a sliding cell door off its tracks, then breached a wall by ripping away a toilet and sink. Security video captured the men fleeing via a loading dock, scaling a wall and running across the nearby highway. The Orleans Parish Justice Center, which mostly holds people awaiting trial or sentencing, discovered the inmates aged 19 to 42 were gone during a routine head count on Friday morning. Hudson said they believe the inmates may have received assistance from individuals inside the department. A jail employee monitoring surveillance video saw the escape but did not alert deputies. She said she did not detail the assistance the inmates received. And part of Indonesia's Java Island, especially along the northern coast, are sinking at the alarming rate. This is causing more frequent tidal flooding as some areas have sunk below sea levels in the last few years. Experts say that part of the problem is over-pumping groundwater, causing the soft ground to sink deeper. They are calling for more sustainable solutions that involve local communities and protect both people and nature.
The island of Java in Indonesia faces the threat of sinking because of several factors such as groundwater extraction and rising sea levels. In some places by the coast, the land is sinking by 10 to 18 centimeters per year, and experts warn that parts of the island will be underwater by 2035 if nothing is done. In Pekalongan, known as Indonesia's Batik City, about 100 families have moved away from Semonet village. Land compaction, abrasion, and continuously rising sea levels have wiped out the village completely, making it unlivable.
Dulu karena saya itu lahir di Semonet, itu sangat jauh sekali dari permukiman warga. Untuk menuju ke bibir pantai kurang lebih itu 700 meteran. Jadi Untuk saat ini semua sudah tinggal kenangan karena sudah jadi lautan semua.
Pekalongan is home to hundreds of small and medium-scale batik producers. The industry uses a lot of groundwater, which contributes to the sinking of the area. The city is built on young sediment, so extraction of groundwater causes the land surface to fall lower and lower below sea level.
Dampak di Pekalongan sebenarnya yang terbesar itu sebenarnya rob. Cuma daerah-daerah yang kena dampak rob itu juga banyak perajin batiknya. Penggunaan air tanah itu kan harus diminimal, apalagi nanti ada efek untuk masa depannya.
To preserve the cultural heritage of Pekalongan, players in the batik industry must first be aware of the threats that could wipe out their workshops.
Harapannya itu ya tetap ini batik sebagai warisan budaya tak benda dan sudah diakui UNESCO. Generasi penerus inilah yang nantinya akan meneruskan budaya kita.
Without this awareness and collaborative effort from the government and public, it is not impossible that Pekalongan will cease to exist in the future. The sinking of Java Island, among other reasons, is also a catalyst that prompted the Indonesian government to create a new political capital in East Kalimantan. The new capital is estimated to have lower risk for natural disasters such as flooding and tsunamis.
An unstable spring weather system spawned powerful tornadoes in the U.S. Midwest and Ohio River Valley, killing at least 25 people in Kentucky and Missouri. The severe storm swept through the U.S. states, causing widespread damage to homes and property, laying waste to local communities and cutting off electricity to nearly 200,000, authorities said on Saturday. At least half a dozen tornadoes touched down in Missouri and neighboring Illinois, and other severe weather stretched all the way to the Atlantic coast, including another tornado reported in New Jersey. Another tornado ripped through St. Louis, killing 5, injuring 38 and damaging 5,000 properties. It tore off the roofs of houses, knocked down power lines and swept through a major thoroughfare during rush hour traffic. And severe flooding struck Exaltación de la Cruz in Argentina on Saturday, leading to the evacuation of thousands of residents. Argentina's National Met Service issued a red alert for northern Buenos Aires province as relentless storms continue to regenerate. The Met Service said the storms are continuously regenerating, with rainfall between 150 and 250 millimeters recorded between Zarate and Arrecifes. Thai construction tycoon Premchai Karnasuta surrendered himself to police over a Bangkok building collapse that killed nearly 100 workers during a powerful earthquake in March. Premchai and the 14 other suspects were affiliated with companies responsible for building design and construction. They have been accused of negligence and breaching construction regulations. There were also irregularities in construction materials used, including substandard concrete and steel, while investigators also discovered forged signatures in engineering documents. The 30-story State Audit Office tower in Bangkok collapsed from tremors caused by the 7.7 magnitude quake that struck neighboring Myanmar. Rescue teams recovered 92 bodies during a 6-week operation, with 4 still unaccounted for. International Museum Day is being observed today. It highlights the vital role that museums play in preserving cultural heritage, promoting education and fostering dialogue across communities and generations. Established in 1977 by the International Council of Museums, this day fosters global awareness of museums as hubs for preserving heritage and promoting peace. The theme for this year is the future of museums in rapidly changing communities, stressing their adaptability in the fast-moving world. It explores how museums can adapt, lead and thrive in the face of societal, technological and environmental changes. Museums are seen as essential connectors, innovators and stewards of cultural identity in rapidly changing communities. In India, the Archaeological Survey of India is offering free entry to all of its museums and monuments across India to walk in and witness the living legacy of India's glorious past. This initiative seeks to deepen public engagement with India's rich cultural legacy and to provide a meaningful platform for people to reconnect with history and heritage. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. US President Donald Trump said on Saturday that Walmart should eat the tariffs instead of blaming duties imposed by the administration on imported goods for the retailers' increased prices. His comments were in response to the world's largest retailer saying this week it would have to start raising prices later this month due to high tariffs. A mausoleum dedicated to Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara was inaugurated on Saturday at the Maison de Entente, the site of his 1987 assassination. The ceremony was attended by the Prime Ministers of Burkina Faso, Senegal and Chad, often dubbed Africa's Che Guevara. Sankara came to power in a 1983 coup and governed until his overthrow and assassination in 1987 by forces loyal to his former ally Blaise Compaoré. Brazil began disinfecting a poultry farm in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, accounting country's first case of bird flu. Authorities have declared an animal health emergency, while key export partners like China and the EU imposed a 60-day ban on Brazilian chicken imports. Brazil is the world's largest chicken exporter, while the state of Rio Grande do Sul accounts for 15% of Brazilian poultry production and exports. In Panama, some 400 farmers sailed down the Indio River protesting against an artificial lake impounding water from Indio River. The project will force about 2,500 people to leave their homes. In response to the protest, the Panama Canal Authority says it wants to maintain direct communication channels with communities, organizations and local authorities. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Up next, we'll get you all the latest from Cannes Film Festival. Jasmine Paolini made Italian tennis history on Saturday by winning the Italian Open in 40 years. And Austria's JJ wins the 69th Eurovision Song Contest in Switzerland.
Our actions harm the planet. But the good news is we can also mitigate some of the damage.
We store the waste material like metal dust, metal pins that accumulates so that we can use it later for painting or some other artwork.
We've invented our own alternative cement, which essentially is compatible with crop residues, because of which Agrocrete, the world's first verified carbon negative bioconcrete.
When my son died, I wanted to take my life too. I lost a child, but I have started an initiative and planted 500,000 trees.
As an alternative to clay bricks, we have come up with concrete hollow blocks that are environmentally friendly.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Sports updates now. We'll start with Indian Premier League. Kolkata Knight Riders were eliminated from Indian Premier League 2025 after their match against Bengaluru at Chinnaswamy Stadium on Saturday got washed out by rain. It was a must-win game for the Ajinkya Rahane-led side to stay alive in the playoff race, but persistent rain at the venue forced the match to be abandoned, with both teams sharing a point each. As a result, Kolkata could now go to a maximum of 14 points, which will not be enough for them to make it to the next stage. On the other hand, Bengaluru, with 17 points from 12 matches, have taken the top spot in the table and nearly booked a playoff spot. This was the match that marked the resumption of IPL 2025, but rain marred the joy. Also, Punjab Kings will resume their IPL campaign against Rajasthan Royals this afternoon, where both teams will aim to strengthen their playoff hopes. All right, we'll go across to DD India's Narayan Singh is joining us live from Delhi. Narayan, IPL resumes with a washout, but unfortunately KKR has been knocked out, becoming the fourth team to be knocked out in the tournament. And very important game for both the teams today. Two games will be played today, but yes, very important game for Gujarat and Delhi.
Definitely, especially for the Delhi, because they have remaining 3 matches, and they need to win at least 2 to be there in the playoffs. Otherwise, it will be a difficult task for them. Already we know that Delhi started their campaign this season in a wonderful way, but towards the mid of the season, they faltered and they were not able to continue the momentum they gained initially. And especially at the Arun Jaitley Stadium, they played 4 matches and lost 3, and 1 match they won in the super over. So they need to address all those issues, and now their frontline bowler, Mitchell Starc, will not be with them, and we know he's a big match winner. In his absence, it will be difficult for them how to cope with that. And Mustafizur Rahman has been his replacement, but today I think he's not. He will not going to play the match because on yesterday he was playing T20 match for Bangladesh in Sharjah, and he may be. I think he returned today morning, so it's not easy for him to play today only. And also multiple headaches for the Delhi Capitals, that Tristan Serve will go after the league stage, and their other McGurk will also not available for them. So difficulties are there. But talking about Gujarat Titans, what a fantastic T20 cricket they displayed this season. Risk-free cricket, consistent cricket, and especially their top order, the way Shubman Gill and Sai Sudarshan played. And at the number 3, we saw Josh Butler playing a fantastic knock for them. But Josh Butler will not be available after the group stage is over, league stage is over. So we can say that Gujarat Titans know how to cope with everything. They have a wonderful coach, Ashish Nehra, the way he mentored their captain, Shubman Gill. And we also know that the big thing for the Shubman Gill, as the coming news reports are coming, he may be the next test captain for the Team India. So how he approaches this game, it remains to be seen today.
Absolutely. 2 matches will be played today in the Indian Premier League. Rajasthan will take on Punjab and Delhi will play Gujarat Titans. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs, Narayan. Now in tennis, world number 1 Jannik Sinner will face Carlos Alcaraz in the Italian Open final showdown on Sunday. Sinner ended a 47-year wait for an Italian to reach the men's singles final in the Rome after Adriano Pennetta lost the title match to Jean Borg in 1978. Playing on home clay in his first tournament since a 3-month doping ban, Sinner overcame an off-key start before overcoming the 11th seed Tommy Paul in the semi-finals. Meanwhile, Sunday's final will mark the first meeting between Sinner and Alcaraz since October, when Alcaraz won the China Open final in a 3rd set tiebreaker. Alcaraz holds a 6-4 edge in their career meetings and has won 3 straight against his biggest rival. Home favourite and 6th seed Yasmin Paolini created history on Saturday as she saw off American world number 3 Coco Gauff 6-4, 6-2 in the Italian Open final in Rome. It was Paolini's biggest clay court title and a second 1000-level crown. The 29-year-old from Tuscany won the Dubai Championships last year. Triumph in Italy boosts Paolini as she continues her preparations for the French Open, where she was runner-up last year. Rode on by an adoring home crowd, Paolini became the first Italian to win the women's title at the Italian Open since Rafael Reggi in 1985. And relishing pleasant morning weather, hundreds of enthusiasts along with GST officials participated in Fit India Sundays on cycle campaign in Delhi. Indian chess grandmaster Tanya Sachdev, along with Special Secretary of CBIC GST Shashank Priya, led the cycle ride from Major Dhyan Chand National Stadium with an aim to spread the message of fitness and fight against obesity. As the initiative completes 24 weeks of its inauguration, it was a special Sunday indeed, as there was a huge amount of participation of people from all walks of life. The initiative promotes cycling as a sustainable, inclusive and an eco-friendly form of exercise with numerous health benefits. News from the world of entertainment. A Nigerian film will finally be shown in a prestigious official slot at the Cannes Film Festival on Sunday after nearly 80 years. After decades of being written off for its cheap and cheerful crowd pleasers, Nollywood, the frantic film industry based in Lagos, which churns out up to 5 films a day, is basking in the reflected glory. Nigerians have long indulged in Nollywood's endless stream of low-budget dramas about corruption, poverty, love and religion, frequently laced with supernatural elements and the conflict between traditional and modern values. And now from the world of music, Austria won the Eurovision Song Contest 2025 in Swiss host city Basel on Saturday. Operatic singer JJ won just ahead of Israel in the world's biggest music competition, which was watched by more than 160 million people across the world. All right, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.